24 hours ago, we saw the Fed cut interest rates for the first time this year, and we are now starting to see the big bounce in crypto begin. HBAR is back to 25 cents, and I know that it wasn't that long ago where we were trading at 25 cents, right? This was going all the way back to the 12th of this month, so about 6 days ago. And if we're thinking about this logically, then the number one thing that we want to see going into Sunday with the weekly candle close is a big break over these key highs. Looking at the 1 year, we're starting to form a uptrend yet again, which is very good to see, but we want to really see this confirmed by breaking some of these previous highs. Looking at the price chart itself, we did start to break over the upper trend line of this downtrend, and we are now starting to bounce off of it. We retested it, we found support on this, and now we're starting to bounce it again. This is on the 3-day structure. On the 3-day structure, I would love for us to break back over 26 cents, and even then, we still have a little bit more work to do to break over these highs from, roughly the middle of August. Looking at this on the 1 week, though, we could see why this 26 cent zone is so big. We want to close over this on the weekly. So a 26 plus cent close on the weekly will be a big signal that we are going to retest these highs back in July. And as you guys already know, once we break those, well, it's all eyes on the 2025 highs, which is, 40 cents. But so far, this is a very good sign of momentum brewing for HBAR. We have now broken over that upper trend line, and also the moving average on RSI has been broken over, and we're starting to trail yet again to the upside. And the best part about this is, we're around like 56, 57 on RSI, so we are not even close to being overbought at all, which tells us that there's a lot more steam left in this chart. So I'm definitely excited about that. I think every HBAR holder should be excited about that as well. And even if we're looking at the market a little bit more in depth, the altcoin season index is now at 76 out of 100. This is because we're starting to see Bitcoin dominance and also even Ethereum dominance drop a bit. The market cap of crypto back to 4.11 trillion. Love to see that. And again, most of these gains have been coming from the altcoin side of the market anyways. So we are 100% locked in on altcoins bouncing back in a big way. Now, talking about some of these top gainers, we're mainly looking at the top categories. One of the biggest things that I think a lot of people kind of forgot about is DeFi. When we are thinking about the DeFi side of the market, and I'm going to utilize Chainlink here just to get there as fast as possible. The DeFi side of this market is up 16.5% in the last 24 hours. This has a market cap of over $388 billion. And what's funny about this is this doesn't even include Ethereum, which it 100% should. But this market is extremely valuable. By the way, HBAR is not even on this list either. So this market cap, I would argue that the market cap of DeFi is more, closer to almost $1 trillion than what this is telling us. Because again, it doesn't even include HBAR, it doesn't include Ethereum, it doesn't include some top tier DeFi projects as well. But when we're thinking about this market, the main thing that I'm focused on is how big DeFi really is. Looking at the homepage of the DeFi side of the market, TVL, just total value locked, over $163 billion is tied back to DeFi. This is why I always say that the DeFi side of this market is going to experience a much larger push to the upside than where we're at right now. I mean, you got to think about it like this, right? Our all-time high back in 2021 was close to almost $200 billion. We hit about 175.6 billion. I think it was a little bit higher than that, but, just kind of going off of what DeFi Llama is showing us, that's what we will really kind of base this off of. But when it comes to Hedera, we're still very early on when it comes to the DeFi market, but we still have about $125 million almost tied back to TVL. Our all-time high on this chart, it's about $214 million. I'm going to round it up a bit. But I do suspect that this value is going to be something pretty easily met when it comes to the DeFi side of Hedera, because what we had back in January really wasn't much. Today, we're starting to see an accelerated push on DeFi. Now, if we're looking at what Hedera has in terms of all of these protocols, I mean, there's 19 protocols tied back to Hedera for DeFi. The main ones we've talked about multiple times on this channel. And, you know, we more so look at SushiSwap and Bonzo Finance, but there's still a lot more that's getting really announced around Hedera that still are kind of new, like, for an example, Stargate. So we just saw this big announcement happen recently, which was Hedera is now live on Stargate. Hedera, a top 20 token at $10 billion in market cap, is the latest ecosystem connected to Stargate's global liquidity layer. Hedera users can now transfer wrapped Ethereum to and from 40 connected chains on Stargate. Wrapped Ethereum is now tradable on Hedera's leading DEX, SushiSwap Labs. This integration also unlocks the ability for 400 plus layer 0 OFTs to deploy into the Hedera ecosystem. Get there with Stargate. And for those that don't know, Stargate is a massive giant in this space, over 300 plus thousand followers. This is one of the largest platforms in this space. And again, this is a great announcement. We have a little bit more of a breakdown with Hedera Foundation. So it's bridging the network to 40 plus connected chains. And the initial liquidity pool will be live on SushiSwap. But we also have a slight announcement of a few other things. Like, for an example, canonical wrapped Ethereum live on Hedera. Cross-chain users can experience the power and fairness of Hedera DeFi, low fixed fees, no MEV, and no front running. With wrapped Ethereum live, the groundwork is being laid for deeper liquidity flows, application development, and future inclusion in Stargate's full routing system. For now, it gives users and developers access to DeFi's most important asset on Hedera's high-performance network. And if we look at the announcement over here as well, we have a few things. So right off the rip, right, the cross-chain bridge that moves money between 80 different blockchain networks is connecting Hedera into the global liquidity layer, bringing canonical Ethereum to the network. As of today, Hedera users and developers can access Ethereum's most popular token, along with the massive liquidity and utility benefits of wrapped Ethereum on chain. Now, this is kind of how it would, this is how to move wrapped Ethereum to Hedera via Stargate using custom EVM addresses. So it's all through the Hashpack app. And this is essentially how you can do this. But again, the main thing to focus on here is exposure, right? Stargate is huge, and we are going to utilize this announcement to really kind of make the argument around the DeFi side of Hedera starting to pick up in a big way. Because again, if we look at Stargate's numbers here, we have Stargate has already facilitated over $70 billion in cross-chain transfers with a faultless security record. And now that this is getting tapped in with even Hedera now, we could start to see that value around the Hedera DeFi side really pick up. We could also start to see more users jumping into the Hedera DeFi side of the market as well because of all the benefits that Hedera does offer. And for those that don't know, well, here we have a little bit of a breakdown behind institutional DeFi, but also this pertains back to the retail sector as well, because what we are looking at with institutional DeFi is the same exact thing that retail users should be looking for with any DeFi platform. So no MEV, so no, sandwiching, no front running, and low fixed fees. That's where Hedera steps in. Check it out.
Hedera is a unique technical achievement. It's not a fork of Bitcoin. It's not a fork of Ethereum. And as such, it just simply doesn't have the concept of maximum extractable value or MEV. This is immensely important for the trading of securities, where front running is illegal activity in most markets. And frankly, it's a terrible retail user experience too. Who wants to be in a position where the price of their purchase goes up because someone saw their trade order and stepped in front of them? And that's a terrible experience. So Hedera is unique in that it has a sequential ordering of transactions without this risk.
And also, this is why we have been witnessing so much adoption around Hedera when it comes to payment use cases like micropayments, for an example, but also stablecoins, as well as additional adoption around even tokenization because of all of these great benefits that Hedera has baked into the infrastructure layer already. Because again, when we think about all of these forks and all of these other networks in the space, most of them do not really have those benefits. Almost none of them really kind of match what Hedera has to offer, which is also something that I've talked about since going all the way back to 2021, right? Like one of the original arguments around why HBAR was going to be, a top 10 project and it was going to be a household name, a blue chip in the space, is because of the tech stack that Hedera has. That ABFT security mechanism is next level, right? It's extremely secure. Institutional players will 100% value that. Then we think about the transaction fees, and then the speed and the scalability. All of these things go hand in hand with really providing any player, enterprise, institutional, retail, it does not matter. Anyone that utilizes the Hedera network can immediately see the difference between any other network compared to Hedera. And this is so important to focus on when it comes to like mass adoption of this tech or trillions of dollars moving on chain. I mean, it's not going to happen on these networks that everyone continues to say, oh no, they're 100% the future because of X, Y, and Z. Like Bitcoin maxis constantly talk about how, the future of finance is going to be built on Bitcoin. I mean, we could definitely live in that fantasy world, but let's just be honest here. It's networks like Hedera that will 100% be the future of finance. Because again, it's not going to be a one chain fits all. So Hedera is not going to be the only winner here, but it's going to be networks like Hedera that are taking what we already know about crypto and making sure that the network can handle future proofing of any use case. So let's just say, right now, okay, we have institutional players moving billions on chain. Well, if we just launch a network that can handle billions of dollars, on chain, all of a sudden we built a box around ourselves. Instead, we should be preparing for, trillions, tens of trillions, hundreds of trillions. And that's exactly what some of these networks have already done. Hedera is a great example of this. The XRP Ledger is a great example of this. Stellar is a great example of this. Algorand's a great example. Like, you understand at some point in time that it's not about Bitcoin. It's not about Ethereum. It's about the best in class network that can be utilized around any use case. If I want microtransactions, if I want, to bring on tokenized real estate, if I want to tap into tokenized stocks, these things are not just going to sit there. We are going to see millions, billions, even trillions of transactions per year on these networks. We cannot sit here thinking that, enterprises and retail and institutional players are going to be fine paying $3,000 in gas fees just to move, X amount of dollars. No, that is not the future. Now, again, when it comes to the DeFi space on Hedera, we're also going to start to accelerate things because Stargate is just another player that allows to bridge assets over to Hedera. Here we have from the Hedera Foundation, H/Accelerate DeFi. Okay, if we're looking at this, we are starting to see so many big connections back to Hedera. We have Stargate with 39 plus networks, Hashport, which is like one of the original players of Hedera, 12 plus networks, ETA Bridge, 5 plus networks, Swarm, 5 plus networks. We are talking about over 50 plus blockchains connected. And again, this is something that I think everyone that holds HBAR should be locked in on, because we are witnessing so much more exposure to Hedera and the DeFi side of Hedera. This is extremely exciting because this is so crucial to see the DeFi side of the Hedera ecosystem expand. And again, I do think that a lot of these big projects that are already on Hedera, like SashaSwap, for an example, they're starting to build, they're starting to expand. Right now, $85 million are on that DEX. I see that number growing 2, 3, maybe even 5x in a very short amount of time because of what they're trying to launch. Mobile phone applications, Bonzo Finance is launching Volt. I mean, there is so much happening behind the scenes for DeFi on Hedera, and we got to think about this, right? What is the actual market value of DeFi itself, right? Like, if we're thinking about DeFi itself, okay, we have TVL in front of us, but what's the actual market value of DeFi? Because if we're thinking about some of these chains, I mean, think about Ethereum just alone, right? Ethereum has $500+ billion in market cap, and it is like the top tier network for DeFi. Majority of the DeFi TVL is tied back to Ethereum. The actual value of DeFi, I would say, is closer to $1 trillion, like I've said. And that's exactly what some of these networks like Hedera is disrupting. And this is just a starting point for DeFi as well. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.